You? Withdraw $500,000 in that hoodie? Boy, go back to wherever you came from. That's what she said. Claire Morgan, Pinnacle Bank teller, said it loud, right there in the middle of the brand new Atlanta branch lobby at 9 o'clock in the morning. No shame, no whisper, just that voice dripping with sarcasm and superiority. But what she didn't know, what no one behind that counter knew, was that the man they were laughing at, dismissing, even threatening to kick out, was Marcus Reynolds, the third largest shareholder of the entire Pinnacle Bank franchise, CEO, owner of 25% of the company they worked for, and in just 10 minutes, after what they said and did, that man would fire the entire branch right from the very spot where he'd been humiliated. But before we step into the glassy, polished lobby where all this went down, tell me, where are you watching from today? Type your city in the comments. I'd love to know how far this story reaches. And hey, if you believe in standing up to injustice, especially when it hides behind a customer service smile, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around. Because what happened next? It was justice, plain and loud. Marcus Reynolds had no interest in making a scene that Monday morning. He came dressed low-key on purpose, navy hoodie, jeans, sneakers. He didn't flash his title or drop his name. He just wanted to see for himself what customers had been complaining about: unfair treatment, especially toward black clients. The Atlanta branch had only been open 10 days, and already complaints were coming in. Some said they were told to wait while others were served. Some said they were treated like frauds. So Marcus, 45, a black man who'd built Pinnacle from the ground up, decided to show up without the entourage. Just him, no fancy car, no tailored suit, just a hoodie and a bank card. He stepped through the front door at exactly 9 a.m. The place was sleek, clean glass dividers, modern counters, spotless tile, but behind all that polish, something ugly was festering. "Sir, I'll need you to wait about 30 minutes. We're very busy today," Claire said. Barely glancing up from her screen, she didn't ask what he needed, didn't even smile. But the two well-dressed customers behind Marcus, the Harrisons, an older white couple in matching beige blazers, she greeted them like royalty. "Right this way, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison," she beamed. "We'll take care of you right away." Marcus said nothing. Not yet. He took a seat. But 15 minutes passed, then 20. The Harrisons had already been helped. Another man in a suit was being offered coffee. A woman in heels got a private room. So Marcus stood up and calmly stepped back to the counter. "Hi," he said. "I'd like to make a withdrawal." Claire rolled her eyes. "How much?" $500,000, Marcus replied, voice even. Claire blinked, then she laughed. "You don't have that kind of money," she said, shaking her head. "Do you even have an account here?" Marcus handed her his Pinnacle black card and Georgia driver's license. Claire looked at them, then smirked. "These look fake. You really expect me to believe this?" Just then, Ryan Walsh, the branch manager, stepped in from the side, middle-aged, red tie too tight, eyes already scanning Marcus like he was trouble. "What's the issue here?" Claire tilted the cards toward him. "This guy's trying to pull a fast one, says he's got a $500,000 to take out. In that outfit?" Ryan chuckled. "Probably a scammer. We've had a few come in lately." "I'm not a scammer," Marcus said firmly. "Check the account." But they didn't, instead. Ryan signaled over to Liam Carter, the security guard, a tall man in a black polo who'd been leaning against the back wall. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Liam said, stepping forward. "You're causing a disturbance." Marcus stayed calm, reached into his pocket and tapped his phone. Starting a voice recording app, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't move. "This is outrageous," he said quietly. "You haven't even looked me up." That's when trainee teller Ava Brooks, just 23 and new to the job, whispered. "He's telling the truth. His name matches. That's a real card. The system shows his account." Ryan gave her a sharp look. "Stay out of this." Meanwhile, sitting nearby was James Rivera, 46, Latino, just there to deposit a check. But he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He pulled out his phone and started filming. He caught the way Claire muttered under her breath. "He doesn't look like a client." He caught the way Ryan barked. "People like him always try something." James's hands trembled as he filmed, not from fear, anger, humiliation, even though it wasn't him being targeted. "This is going online," he whispered. "Back at the counter," Claire now said. "We can't find any record of your account. You're wasting our time." She clicked a few things on her screen, then turned it away. Marcus couldn't see what she'd done, but James, who'd edged closer, could hear her say, "I just marked it closed." Let's see him explain that. In the back office, Claire and Ryan both laughed. "Probably borrowed that hoodie from a shelter," Ryan said. Claire chuckled. "Bet he's gonna cry next." Liam stood firm, arms crossed. "Move now, or I'll escort you out myself." Ava looked stunned. "This is wrong," she whispered. "He's got a valid ID." Marcus stayed still, quiet, but inside, something cracked. He wasn't just a man being insulted. He was the man, the one who wrote the checks that paid these people, the one who had vouched for this branch. He looked at Liam. "You don't want to do this," Marcus warned. "You'll regret it." Liam scoffed. "Try me." Then Marcus stepped aside and called his assistant. "Lauren, log this incident. Mark it urgent." "Systems active, right?" Lauren, back at headquarters, replied instantly. "Yes, Marcus, I'm recording on our end. Send your audio." Marcus clicked to upload the file. "Copy that," Lauren confirmed. But the staff didn't hear this part. They were still mocking. James's camera was still rolling. The Harrisons had already finished their transaction and were walking out, smiling, completely unaware of the chaos that was brewing behind them. Claire turned back to Marcus one last time. "Try another bank," she said coldly. "One that fits your... look." She air-quoted the word look and went back to typing. And then, in a voice that barely shook, Marcus said, "You're ruining Pinnacle." "Security!" Ryan Walsh's voice rang out across the glossy tile like a gavel hitting wood. "Get this man out of my bank before he causes a real problem." The lobby had tensed. Every eye turned toward Marcus Reynolds, who hadn't moved an inch. Dressed in a navy hoodie and jeans, he stood calmly, holding his ground just in front of the counter where he'd been humiliated moments earlier. Claire Morgan, the teller who had just called his identification fake and mocked his withdrawal request, folded her arms and gave a tight smile like she was enjoying the show. "Told you," she muttered under her breath. "He's a scammer, probably casing the place." Liam Carter, the tall security guard, began walking over, heavy boots thudding like slow drums on the polished floor. "Sir," Liam said firmly, "step outside before this becomes something it doesn't need to be." But Marcus didn't budge. "I have an account here," he said, voice steady, "and I asked to withdraw my own funds." Ava Brooks, the young trainee teller still stationed behind Claire, glanced nervously at the terminal. "His name checks out," she said quietly, almost too softly to be heard. "His ID matches our system. I see the account." Ryan's head snapped toward her. "Ava, I said stay out of it." Claire shook her head like Ava had embarrassed them. "You'll learn. Girl, these types always try something." Ava's face flushed, and she looked down. James Rivera, the customer who had been filming the moment Claire denied Marcus's withdrawal, was now recording openly. "This is getting worse," he whispered to himself. "They don't even care who's watching." Back near the window, two other customers were murmuring. One, a retired teacher, shook her head. "Doesn't matter what he's wearing. If he's got ID and a card, that should be enough." Another nodded. "But they're treating him like a criminal." Meanwhile, in the back office, Claire had stepped in and pulled up Marcus's account, then, without blinking, altered the status field to closed. "There," she said to herself. "Let's see him explain that." She called Ryan over. "I've got it flagged as suspicious activity. Said he couldn't verify the account." Ryan looked at the screen, smirked, then looked back out toward Marcus. "All right, I'm done being patient. You've been warned. Security's handling it now." Liam stepped closer, one hand on his belt. "Time to go." Marcus raised his phone to chest level, still recording audio. Every word. He muttered under his breath. "They're hanging themselves." He took a breath, slow and deep, and for a moment, he drifted back to a memory. He was 22 again, standing in another bank, not Pinnacle, but a cold, gray branch in Chicago, dressed in a sweatshirt and jeans, just trying to open a basic account. The woman behind the glass had laughed, told him they don't open accounts for people without suits. The manager had followed him out, warned him not to cause trouble. That memory never left. It fueled him, drove him, and now, all these years later, he was standing in nearly the same moment. But this time, the bank was his. His name was on the shareholder board. His money built this branch, and they still didn't see him. He tapped a few buttons on his phone. "Lauren," he whispered. His assistant's voice came through on the other end. "Yes. Marcus? They just altered the log. Claire changed the account status to closed. Record that. Log it in the internal system. Begin the chain." "Copy that," Lauren replied. "We're logging everything on our side. Recording active." In another moment of quiet rebellion, Ava reached under the counter, pulled out her own phone, and started recording too, audio only, the mic low by the keyboard. She caught Ryan saying, "He's trouble. We'll have to file a report after this. Let the fraud department handle it," Claire responded. "I'm not wasting time on his type. We've got real clients to help." Ava's hand trembled as she hit record. She didn't know what Marcus's full story was, but she could feel it in her chest. Something about this wasn't just wrong. It was bad. And if no one else was going to stand up, she would. James, still standing off to the side, uploaded the video he'd been filming to X and TikTok. No hashtags, no captions, just raw footage. A man calmly asking to withdraw money, being told to leave, accused of fraud, mocked for his clothes. And when Ryan walked past him again, James caught it clearly on camera. Ryan saying, "Next time he'll come in dressed like someone who belongs." That clip would hit a nerve. The views would start slow, a few dozen, then 100, then thousands, but inside the bank, no one knew that yet. "You're crossing a line," Marcus said, louder now. "You're refusing to verify my credentials. You're calling me a fraud with no evidence." Ryan shrugged. "It's policy." Claire laughed. "Fraudsters love to sound smart." Ava looked like she might cry. "You have to stop this," she told Ryan. "He's got proof." Ryan ignored her. "Ava, go take your break." James stepped closer, filming still. "This is all going online," he said. "They're gonna see this." Marcus locked eyes with Ryan. "You're going to regret this," Claire muttered under her breath. "Fraudsters don't belong." Then Ava spoke up again, this time loud. "I checked the records. You both ignored past complaints about profiling. I read the internal notes. You dismissed everyone, even flagged some as resolved when they weren't." The lobby quieted. Even Liam paused. Ryan's face went red. "You don't know what you're talking about." But Marcus stepped forward now, no fear in his voice. "They do know. You ignored bias complaints. You altered my account. You framed me in front of your staff and customers. And you did it because of how I look." Claire flinched. James looked at Marcus, then back at the camera. "People need to hear this." In that moment, everything shifted. A few of the customers stood, murmuring, forming a kind of human wall between Marcus and Liam. Liam raised a brow. "I'm not here to fight anyone," Marcus said. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here until someone with actual authority gets on the phone." Back at headquarters, Lauren had already sent the first recording to Regional Director Elena Torres. She responded instantly. "Understood. Begin escalation. I want all audio logged, all video flagged. I'll call you in 5 minutes." Meanwhile, Ava tapped Marcus's shoulder gently. "I've got a recording, too, of them, just in case you need it." Marcus looked at her and gave a nod. "Thank you," he said simply. For the first time that morning, someone had spoken to him like he belonged. James turned his phone around. "You're going viral," he said. "This thing's climbing." Marcus gave a faint smile. "Let it." The lobby of Pinnacle Bank's brand new Atlanta branch had turned from calm and modern to tense and electric, like a storm cloud rolling in over polished floors and soft jazz music. At exactly 9:06 a.m., Ryan Walsh, the branch manager, grabbed the intercom phone and spoke in a clipped, agitated voice that echoed through the entire space. "Attention staff, please be advised. The individual in the lobby is creating a disturbance. Security is instructed to remove him immediately." The words hit like a slap across the face. Claire Morgan smirked from her teller window. "Guess the show's over," she muttered. Marcus Reynolds, still standing in the center of the lobby in his navy hoodie and jeans, stayed silent, his face stone cold, his phone still recording every second. He'd taken abuse before, but this? A public shaming in a building he helped fund, from people who didn't even think to check the account they were mocking? It wasn't just insulting, it was personal. Liam Carter, the security guard, started moving in fast now, hands open but voice firm. "Sir, I've asked you nicely. You need to leave, now." But before Liam could grab his arm, a voice called out, "Hold on!" It was Ava Brooks, the young trainee teller. Her voice was small but clear. "He didn't do anything wrong." She stepped out from behind her window, holding her phone in one hand and a printed receipt in the other. "I pulled up the account. Marcus Reynolds. Active. Account ending in 0047. Verified. Balance confirmed," Ryan barked. "Ava, get back to your station." "No," she said. "Not this time." James Rivera, still recording, stepped forward too. "This is all on tape. All of it. The way you mocked him. Ignored his ID. Changed his account status. We've got audio and video." Ryan's face flushed red. He turned and hissed. "You can't record in a bank. That's illegal." James shook his head. "Public space. No expectation of privacy. And I'm not recording account info. I'm recording behavior." Customers nearby began standing from their seats. An older woman with silver hair crossed her arms and said, "Why'd you call security on a man asking for his own money?" Another man in work boots stepped forward. "You never checked his info. You just looked at him and decided." Liam, now just a step away from Marcus, hesitated. "Sir," he said, but there was something different in his tone now. Not forceful, cautious. Marcus turned to face him. "Don't make this mistake, Liam, not you." The two locked eyes. Tension thickened. Then, from the teller area, Claire leaned into the back office doorway and whispered something to Ryan, loud enough for James's camera to pick up. "Let's just frame him for being aggressive. Say he raised his voice." Ryan nodded slightly. "We'll claim he threatened staff. That'll shut this down." That whisper changed everything. Ava's eyes widened. "They're lying," she shouted. "They're trying to cover it up." She hit play on her phone, recording from earlier that morning. Ryan's voice was crystal clear. "He's trouble. Just call him a scammer and get him out." Then Claire's voice. "He's not a real client. No one dressed like that has $500,000. The audio echoed in the lobby, catching every insult, every biased assumption. Customers gasped. One woman put her hand over her mouth. "That's disgusting," she said. Marcus raised his voice now, steady but commanding. "Everyone in this room just heard that. You heard what they said about me, before they checked my name, before they looked at my card. That's the reality we live in. But not today. Not here." Claire tried to speak, but customers began murmuring louder. Someone shouted, "Shame on you," another added. "How many people have you treated like this?" Liam stepped back slowly. Hands up. "I'm not getting in the way of this." Ryan reached again for the intercom, but a middle-aged man in a wheelchair rolled between him and the desk. "You don't get to silence this. Not after what we all just heard." Ava handed Marcus the receipt she printed. "Verified," she said again, loud and proud. "He's a legitimate client. You all ignored that." James held up his phone. "This is already gaining traction. People are watching. You can't walk this back." Ryan's face drained of color. "You're making a mistake. All of you." Marcus stepped closer. "No, Ryan, you made the mistake. When you decided a hoodie meant I didn't belong, when you let your assumptions speak louder than the facts, and when you underestimated who I was." James, still filming, whispered, "Is this the part where he tells them?" A ripple of suspense moved through the lobby. Ava looked to Marcus. "They don't know, do they?" He shook his head. "Not yet." Ryan, flustered, turned to Liam. "Escort him out." But Liam didn't move. "I'm not touching him," he said. "Not after hearing that audio." Claire finally lost her nerve. I didn't mean it like that," James replied. "Then how did you mean it?" Claire had no answer. Just then, Lauren's voice rang through Marcus's earpiece. "Recording sent to Elena. She's calling now. We're almost there." Marcus nodded once. He stepped forward, right in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by stunned customers, silent tellers, and frozen staff. "You've all asked who I am, why I'm here. Well, You'll find out soon. But first, let me say this. This moment, this incident, everything you did this morning, it's bigger than me. It's about what happens in places like this, to people who look like me, every single day. The looks, the accusations, the denials, the lies. It stops here. Someone started clapping, then another and another. A slow ripple of support moved through the room like a wave, customers rallying not just around Marcus but around what he stood for. James kept filming, now circling slightly to capture everyone's faces. "This is going to explode," he said. "They don't even know who he is yet." Marcus turned toward Claire. "You forged a log entry, claimed my account didn't exist. You lied to cover your own bias." Claire looked down, ashamed. Ryan tried to speak, but Marcus cut him off. "And you? You used your title to protect her, to threaten me, to try to make me vanish, but I'm not going anywhere. And you? You're done." Ava stepped closer to Marcus's side. "We're not all like them," she said. "Some of us want to get it right." Marcus gave her a soft nod. "And some of you will." The weight of the moment pressed into the room. No one moved, no one breathed. Then Marcus spoke once more, voice even. "This is your last chance to do the right thing before I do what needs to be done." Ryan, sweat beading on his forehead, looked around the lobby at the crowd of angry, determined faces, people who'd come to do everyday things like deposit checks or open accounts, now transformed into witnesses and defenders. He saw the phones, the recordings, the rising tension, and for the first time, he realized he was no longer in control. "Get him out of here, now!" Ryan Walsh's voice cracked like glass under pressure. But no one moved. The branch manager stood in the middle of Pinnacle Bank's 10-day-old Atlanta lobby, red-faced and desperate, trying to reassert control that had long since slipped through his fingers. Around him, the air was heavy, silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the low buzz of James Rivera's phone still recording. Claire Morgan, shaken but stubborn, stood frozen behind the teller counter, mouth tight, eyes darting as if searching for an escape hatch. Liam Carter, the bank's security guard, shifted from one foot to the other, looking less like an enforcer and more like a man who realized the ground beneath him had turned to ice. "Do it!" Ryan barked again, pointing at Marcus Reynolds, who stood calmly, centered, unreadable. But Liam didn't move, not an inch. Instead, it was the customers who stepped forward. 3 at first, then 5, then nearly everyone who'd been seated just minutes ago, now forming a half circle around Marcus, not to block him, but to protect him. An older woman with a walking cane stood at the front. "You're not laying a hand on him," she said firmly. "I may be old, but I've seen enough of this in my lifetime to know it's wrong." A man in a UPS uniform echoed. "You touch him. You go through me." Ryan looked around in disbelief. "You're interfering with bank protocol." But the crowd didn't budge. "No," someone said from the back. "We're interfering with your racism." Marcus glanced at Ava Brooks, the young trainee who'd stood beside him through it all. She nodded, holding her phone tight, the audio of Ryan's and Claire's comments still saved on her device. He turned slowly, letting his eyes meet those of the people around him. Black, white, Latino, elderly, middle-aged, blue-collar, white-collar. People who didn't know him but knew enough to know what injustice looked like. He saw Liam hesitating still, caught between orders and conscience. "Don't do this," Marcus said, quiet but firm. "You saw what happened. You heard the recordings. You know the truth now. If you lay a hand on me after all that, it's on you." Liam looked to Ryan, then back at Marcus. "I was following orders," he muttered. "Not anymore," Marcus replied. "This is your choice." Claire scoffed, voice rising, brittle. "You're all being manipulated. He's probably filming a setup, some scam for likes." But no one laughed with her. Even her fellow tellers had gone silent. Then, almost too calmly, Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed. "Elena Torres, please," he said into the receiver. "This is Marcus Reynolds." A pause. Then his tone shifted ever so slightly. "Yes, go ahead. I authorize immediate termination for Ryan Walsh and Claire Morgan. Liam Carter to be placed on probation with mandatory retraining pending final review." There was a stunned beat of silence. Claire's mouth fell open. Ryan's hands balled into fists. "You can't fire us," he barked. "You're just a customer." "No," Marcus said, eyes narrowed. "I'm your CEO. The crowd reacted in waves. Gasps rippled across the lobby. One man literally stepped back, whispering. "What?" Ava's hand flew to her mouth. James lowered his camera slightly. "Oh my God," someone said. "This is his bank?" Marcus nodded once. "I own 25% of Pinnacle Bank. I helped design this branch. I fought to build it here, in this community. And now I'm watching it rot from the inside out, because of people like you." Ryan looked pale. Claire stumbled back against the counter. "You. This isn't how we do things." She stammered. "No," Marcus said. "It's how you did things. That ends today." Liam slowly stepped away from Marcus, hands open. "If you're really him," Marcus turned. "I am. And you're not the worst here, Liam, but you stood by and let it happen. You still have a chance to make it right." Lauren's voice came through the earpiece again, crisp and direct. "Regional Director Elena Torres has approved the actions. Meeting set, media leaks incoming." Marcus gave a subtle nod. "Thank you, Lauren." He looked back to the customers, some still stunned, some filming, many just watching in silent awe. "I wasn't going to say anything," he told them. "I came here today because we received complaints. Not about fraud, not about security, about bias, about good people being treated like they didn't belong. I wanted to see it for myself. And I did." Claire suddenly snapped, shouting over him. "So what now? You just destroy our careers?" Her voice cracked, not with strength, but panic. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "You destroyed them yourself, Claire. When you forged the log, when you mocked my clothes. When you decided I couldn't possibly be a client because I didn't look like what you expected. You don't represent Pinnacle's values. You represent the exact thing we promised to fight against." Ryan stepped forward now, still defiant. "I've worked here 20 years. You think you can toss me aside for one misunderstanding?" Marcus turned to him, eyes sharp. "This wasn't one mistake. You created a culture of profiling. Ava found prior complaints. You dismissed them all. You taught your staff to trust their eyes over their systems. You taught them to look at someone like me and assume criminal before client." The UPS worker called out from the back. "That's what happened to my cousin. You turned him away last week. Said his ID looked off." Another customer chimed in. "Same thing happened to my son last Thursday." Marcus's gaze swept the room. "There it is. It was never just me." Claire tried one last time, voice small. We were told to be cautious." Ava stepped up beside Marcus. "No, you were told to be fair. You chose bias, over and over." Marcus looked to her. "You've shown more integrity in 10 minutes than they have in 10 years. You stood up when it mattered. You're going to help us fix this place." She blinked, surprised. "Sir, you'll be promoted. Effective immediately. I want people like you leading the new generation here." Claire nearly choked. "She's just a trainee." Marcus didn't even look at her. "And she still had more courage than you." Then, turning to the crowd, he addressed them all. "There's going to be change, starting today. Training, audits, accountability. And to those of you who were mistreated, whether today or before, I'm sorry. You deserve better." James raised his phone again, tears just starting to rim his eyes. This is what leadership looks like," he whispered. Not loud, not violent, just right. As the crowd began to settle, murmurs turning to quiet applause, Marcus finally exhaled. For the first time since stepping foot into the branch that morning, he felt the tension loosen in his chest, not because it was over, but because the real work could begin. This wasn't just about a withdrawal. It was about dignity, about truth, and about standing your ground, even when the system tries to shove you out the door. And now the door was open for change. "You're the CEO?" Claire's voice cracked as if the words sliced her from the inside. Her knees buckled just slightly, catching the edge of the teller counter as her eyes went wide. "You're Marcus Reynolds?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He just looked around that lobby, his lobby, filled with stunned customers, silent employees, one trembling security guard, and a young trainee who had risked her job to stand by what was right. He took a breath, calm and sure. Then he spoke, his voice low but undeniable. "Yes," he said, "I am Marcus Reynolds. I'm the CEO of Pinnacle Bank, and I own 25% of this entire institution. This branch? I personally approved the budget, I helped pick the location, and I built it with one purpose in mind, so that everyone in this community would be treated with dignity and fairness. He paused, letting the words land. Instead, I walked into a bank carrying my name, and I was treated like a criminal, by my own staff. The room was frozen. Ryan Walsh looked like he'd been sucker punched. His mouth opened, then closed. He stumbled a step back. Claire's lip quivered. She couldn't bring herself to speak again. James Rivera, phone still filming, lowered it briefly and whispered, "Jesus, this really just happened." Ava Brooks blinked hard, eyes darting between Marcus and the others. She whispered, "I knew it. I felt it." Marcus turned to her and nodded. "You felt the truth, and you stood in it. That's what leadership looks like." Then he turned back to face Ryan and Claire. "You two are terminated, effective immediately. Your actions this morning, your assumptions, your forged records, your insults, your refusal to verify basic information, they don't just violate bank policy, they violate every value I've built this company on." Ryan's face flushed crimson. "You can't just fire us. There's a process." Marcus raised a brow. "Oh, there'll be a process. HR will complete the paperwork. But your access ends now, and your badges will be deactivated before you reach the parking lot." Claire, now pale and trembling, stammered, "I didn't. I was just doing what I was told." "No," Marcus cut in. "You did what you wanted. You judged me by my hoodie, not by my account, not by my ID, not by my name. You made a decision the second I walked in, that I wasn't worth your time, that I didn't belong here, that I wasn't a real client. But I am more than that. I'm the man who signs the checks. I'm the man who built this system so it wouldn't do what you did today." Claire's legs finally gave, and she sat down behind the counter, mouth slack, face drained of its usual smugness. Then, almost like something snapped, she muttered, "Ryan told me to do it. He's been doing it for years. It's how he trains us." The room went still. Ryan looked stunned. "Claire," he warned, but she kept talking, voice shaking. "He told us to prioritize presentable clients. Said folks in suits get priority. If someone came in looking casual, he said to verify twice, ask questions, delay if needed." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "How many times?" Claire didn't answer, but Ava did. "There are at least 6 complaints logged just this month. I found them last night when reviewing training notes, all flagged resolved. None actually reviewed. Some from black clients, some Latino. One was a mother with a crying baby who just wanted to cash a check." A wave of anger rolled through the lobby. Customers began murmuring again, one woman said. "So it was a pattern." Another added, "This wasn't just bias, it was policy." Marcus's voice dropped low, heavy. "I built Pinnacle to be different, to be better. I know what it feels like to be turned away. At 22, I was denied service for wearing jeans. The teller looked me over and said, 'Come back when you look like someone we can trust.' That moment stuck with me, drove me, fueled everything I did to build this bank. So I made it a rule. Our clients are judged by facts, not by fashion." He turned slightly, speaking now to the entire room. "What happened here today proves we still have work to do, but it ends now." Liam Carter, still standing off to the side, finally found his voice. "What happens to me?" Marcus looked at him, not with anger but with something deeper, disappointment, maybe, or measured hope. "You didn't start this," Marcus said, "but you didn't stop it either. You followed orders instead of asking questions. You stood by while your co-workers twisted the truth. I'm placing you on probation, effective today. You'll undergo retraining, and if you pass, we'll talk about keeping you on." Liam nodded slowly. "That's fair," he said quietly. "I want to do better." Marcus gave him a small nod. "Then start now." Then, turning to Ava, Marcus smiled. "Ava Brooks," he said, and she straightened. "For your integrity, your courage, and your willingness to speak up even when it was hard, I'm promoting you. You're no longer a trainee, effective immediately. You're an assistant branch supervisor, and I'll be working with you to ensure this branch becomes the model of fairness it was meant to be." Ava gasped. "Sir, thank you." Marcus shook her hand. "No, thank you." Around them, the customers who had stood watch through the chaos began clapping, slow at first, then rising. Applause not for spectacle, but for justice, for courage, for accountability. James raised his phone again and spoke directly into the lens. "This just turned from a nightmare into a movement." As the noise settled, Claire whispered, almost inaudibly, "It wasn't just us. There are others, other branches. They've been doing the same." Marcus turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Claire looked up, defeated. "We were told not to flag certain complaints, that it made the numbers look bad. It came from regional. We just followed the cues." Lauren's voice came through Marcus's earpiece again. "We've logged her confession. Elena says she's initiating a full internal review. All branches, all transaction logs, all profiling-related complaints, effective immediately." Marcus turned to the crowd. "You heard that. It wasn't just this branch. It was deeper, and now it's coming to light. We're going to root it out, everywhere." There was a hush, that final twist, that this wasn't just one bad branch, but possibly a systemic rot, settled like a weight in the room. But with it came something else. Resolve. Marcus looked around one last time. "To every customer here who saw this unfold, thank you. Your presence mattered. Your voices mattered. Change is coming. Real change. And it starts here. With me. With you." He turned to leave, but not before locking eyes with Ryan one final time. "You judged me by my clothes, and you lost your job because you couldn't see past them. Let that lesson follow you. Let it change you." Ryan said nothing. Claire was crying now. Liam stood straighter. Ava looked overwhelmed, but proud. And Marcus? He walked out of that lobby, not as the man they tried to humiliate, but as the leader who stood up, stood firm, and stood tall, when it mattered most. The doors to the Pinnacle Bank lobby had just closed behind the last customer when Marcus Reynolds turned to Liam Carter, voice calm but firm. "Clear the floor. We need privacy. Now." Liam, now operating under the weight of probation and purpose, gave a respectful nod. Within minutes, blinds were drawn, lights dimmed, and only 4 people remained in the glass and stone silence of the branch: Marcus, Ryan Walsh, Claire Morgan, and Ava Brooks. The tension that had been public moments earlier had now settled into something colder. Quiet accountability. "This," Marcus began, pacing slowly between them, "is a formal internal meeting. Actions taken here will be logged and submitted to headquarters. Regional Director Elena Torres is on standby. You'll speak truthfully, or I'll make sure your termination includes legal scrutiny." Ryan, standing with folded arms but no bluster left in him, muttered, "Understood." Claire, eyes swollen, gave a small nod. Ava, now standing near the teller line with a printout of her recordings in hand, kept her gaze steady on Marcus. "First," Marcus said, stopping in front of Claire, "you are terminated for cause. You mocked a client, me, altered transaction logs, and ignored identity verification procedures. Your actions today alone justify dismissal, but your confession, your participation in a larger pattern of buried complaints, that exposes something bigger, and now we have it on record." Claire blinked hard, tears slipping down her cheek. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She just whispered, "I didn't think I'd get caught." Marcus nodded. "That's exactly the problem." He turned to Ryan next. "You taught this behavior. You built a culture of profiling inside this branch and then hid it with fake resolved complaint entries. That's fraud. Ryan, at best, it's negligence. At worst, it's institutional bias. Either way, you're done. Your termination is non-negotiable. HR has already been notified." Ryan finally spoke, his voice gravel and shame. "You think you're saving this place by throwing me out?" Marcus stepped closer. "No, I'm saving it by cutting out the root. You forgot this bank was founded to fight exactly what you became." Marcus looked to Liam now, whose hands were behind his back, chin down. "You had the chance to speak up. You had the instincts, but not the courage. I'm placing you on a 90-day probation. You'll undergo mandatory retraining, implicit bias, conflict resolution, non-discriminatory response procedures. If you pass every course, you can reapply for your role. If not, you're done too." Liam nodded slowly. "I don't want to be who I was today," he said quietly. "I'll do the work." "You better," Marcus replied, but not cruelly. He turned now to Ava, who had been silent until then. "And you," he said. "You're the future I hope this bank would have." Her eyes widened slightly. "Me?" "Yes," Marcus said. "You spoke up when it was risky. You listened to your gut. You checked the system, not the suit. And when it mattered, you didn't fold. You recorded what was right. I'm promoting you. Effective immediately. You'll serve as interim assistant branch supervisor. You'll report directly to Elena until we assign a new branch lead." Ava blinked in disbelief. "Thank you. I just didn't want to be part of something wrong." "And because of that," Marcus said gently, "you helped make something right." Lauren's voice came through on speaker now, clear and composed. "Media interest is rising. James's video is making rounds across platforms. We've been contacted by 3 journalists, but so far, no official comment has been released." Marcus nodded. "Good. Let the story breathe on its own. This isn't about PR, it's about policy." Elena Torres joined the call next. "Full internal audit is approved. Every complaint log from the past 2 years will be pulled. We're ordering a region-wide retraining program. Immediate rollout. Ava's promotion will be publicly listed once her paperwork clears. Terminations will be sealed and final by close of business." Marcus stepped back, finally letting a small breath out. "We're not just cleaning up a lobby today, we're reforming a culture." Claire, still seated, spoke for the last time. "It wasn't just us. You know, we were told to ignore complaints to protect our branch rating. It's all numbers to them." Marcus gave a slow nod. "And that's why it ends here." As the meeting closed, and the weight of the moment settled over them like dusk, Marcus looked around that silent lobby, the same lobby that had nearly turned into a scene of disgrace. Now it was something else, a place where bias had been confronted, where silence had been broken, and where accountability, long overdue, had finally arrived. 3 months later, the sunlight poured gently through the tall windows of Pinnacle Bank's Atlanta branch. But the energy inside felt completely different from that tense morning back in June. Gone was the icy politeness that masked judgment. Gone were the long glances at clothing, the hesitation before greeting a black customer, the quiet assumptions that someone didn't belong. What had replaced it was something stronger, steadier, trust. And at the center of that change was Marcus Reynolds. He stood near the same spot where he had once been accused of fraud in a hoodie and jeans, now wearing the same outfit, not out of protest, but as a reminder. Around him, staff greeted clients with genuine warmth. Ava Brooks, now the full branch supervisor, trained new hires with empathy and firmness. Liam Carter, still on probation, had just finished his final round of training. He walked up to Marcus that morning, hand extended, voice low. "Thank you for giving me a chance," he said. "I won't waste it." Marcus shook his hand. "I believe you," he said simply. That day had changed more than just a staff roster. It had shaken a system. Across the region, internal audits exposed patterns of ignored profiling complaints that had quietly collected dust in back-end systems. Marcus, with support from Elena Torres and Lauren Miles, launched a full reform initiative, mandatory anti-bias training, direct accountability audits, anonymous reporting structures, and a strict zero-tolerance policy for profiling behaviors. More importantly, he humanized the policy. He didn't hide behind corporate memos or legal disclaimers. He showed up, in person, in hoodie and jeans, to remind people that fairness shouldn't depend on appearance. And the message spread. James Rivera's video, quiet and raw, had passed 10 million views. He never added hashtags, never edited it, just let the truth breathe. Media outlets picked it up slowly at first, then with urgency. The story became more than a viral video. It became a case study in leadership. In one interview, Ava said, "He didn't raise his voice. He didn't humiliate anyone. He just stood still and let them hang themselves on their own assumptions. That taught me more about justice than any textbook ever could." Customers returned. Some who had once left in frustration came back and spoke openly about what they'd endured. One woman said, "I didn't expect compensation. I just wanted someone to believe me." And now, they did. Pinnacle issued private apologies, not public stunts, no camera crews, no press releases, just quiet letters, direct calls, and fair settlements. Real change happened not in headlines, but in hallways. One former employee, anonymous at first, came forward with records showing that regional management had knowingly allowed Ryan Walsh to manipulate internal logs to keep complaint numbers low. They didn't want to look bad on paper, the whistleblower wrote. That final twist validated Marcus's instincts. This wasn't just about one bad manager or a cruel teller. It was about a system too comfortable looking the other way, and Marcus had forced it to open its eyes. He didn't want praise. He wanted progress, and it showed. When asked why he hadn't gone public sooner, Marcus replied, "Because justice doesn't need a spotlight, it needs a backbone." His words stayed with people. Staff printed them out and taped them in break rooms. Branches quoted them in training sessions. Customers repeated them to their children. And on that same spot, 3 months later, a group of community members gathered for what they quietly called the morning that changed everything. They weren't there for a ceremony, just a conversation. Marcus walked by, and they stood, clapped, and thanked him. A retired teacher hugged Ava. "You make me believe in young people again," she said. Liam, humbled and quieter now, offered a respectful nod to every guest who entered. No one mentioned the incident by name, but everyone felt its echo. And in a way, that was the point. The story wasn't about what had happened in 10 minutes. It was about what those 10 minutes sparked: a correction, a confession, a cultural course change. Marcus stood near the glass doors, looked back once, and said softly, "We built this bank to be fair. That's what I'll protect, no matter what I'm wearing." And with that, he walked out. No podium, no applause. Just a man who had faced injustice with grace, answered arrogance with truth, and left behind something stronger than policy: legacy.